fan theories of the Sleeping Beauty. Everyone loves a good plot twist, which is why the internet has come up with so many elaborate fan theories about everything. Dedicated fans will waste no time analyzing every little detail in a work of art, and movies, of course, are no exception. After all, there could be all kinds of hidden meanings and Easter eggs you miss while watching a good flick. Luckily, we have scoured the deepest parts of the internet to find the most fascinating and mind-blowing fan theories about your favorite film, The Sleeping Beauty. While some of these fan theories simply speculate about a character or a specific scene in a film, others completely change the way we look at the entire plot of the movie and even the expanded franchise. No matter how far-fetched and outrageous they seem, they always have some bit of evidence that prove the theory might just be possible. Enough with the intro, now let's get back to our discussion topic. 1. Maleficent is King's Stefan's sister-in-law. When Maleficent appears at the christening of Aurora, which she was not invited to, Aurora's mother refers to her as Your Excellency. A bit of research revealed that this title is often an honorary one when it pertains to royalty, inferring that the bearer of the title married into a royal family. This can also mean that the bearer is the younger sibling of a crown prince or princess. But I don't like the theory that Maleficent's Stefan's sister. It would seem to me that Maleficent may have originally been intended for Stefan, but was instead married off to his brother. She may even have loved him, hence her desire to kill his child with his current wife and gain control of his kingdom. 2. The fairies are double agents of Maleficent. This one is a bit crazy, but I always had a hard time believing that the fairies would spend so much time and energy hiding Aurora in the forest only to bring her back the exact day that Maleficent said she would kill her. Why could not they stay hidden until a few days after her 16th birthday? This always made me think that they intended Maleficent to find her, but they also knew that Maleficent's defeat hinged on a perfect sequence of events which they wanted to happen. 3. Meriwether's gift to Aurora would have been wisdom or insight. This is about the old animated film and doesn't include updated versions. Flora's gift to infant Princess Aurora was beauty. Fiona's was song. We never got to see what gift Meriwether meant to bestow upon Aurora because Maleficent showed up, cursed the baby princess to die at 16 and left Meriwether to change her gift in order to lighten the severity of Maleficent curse, changing the result to sleep rather than death and allowing that the curse can be broken by true love's first kiss, showing that Meriwether's powers can affect the outcome of Aurora's future despite working against Maleficent curse powers. Philip and Aurora had a fairly flirty scene together. For the time period, it's possible that if they had kissed at the end of the Once Upon a Dream segment, Aurora's curse would have been broken early before it ever really took effect. Aurora had dreams of meeting a handsome stranger, typically princess dreams, but the outcome of her future romance is the key to her curse being broken as well. Her gifts of beauty and song help bring about her eventual true love. We think Meriwether's girls would have to do with brains or insight or sight rather than beauty. Meriwether was the most realistic and least optimistic of the three, reminding Flora of how Maleficent might foil her original plan to turn her into a flower. She also realistically was doubtful about their ability to live as mortal. She convinced the others to use magic when their attempts to bake a cake and she addressed the heart of a fate. Meriwether did not underestimate Maleficent, stating the knows everything and being corrected by Fiona, who often seemed less sharp than Flora or Meriwether, but understood that Maleficent doesn't know about love and kindness. Meriwether showed an independent and rebellious trait, speaking out against Aurora's betrothal before they realized Philip was the boy she had fallen in love with, and being scolded by Flora, that's not for us to decide. Since Meriwether also turned Maleficent's betrothal into stone, even chasing it to do so, this shows that her powers can possibly be used for more grey area magic than the other two, since turning an animal to stone seems a bit less pure or white magic than the ability shown by Flora and Fauna. She also grumped about wanting to turn Maleficent into a toad. The other two react in shock, saying their powers can only bring good and happiness, to which he retorts, oil that would make me happy. If Meriwether had been allowed to bestow her original gift, she would want the princess to have the useful and somewhat grey area ability to rule with wisdom and insight so that she might succeed in more ways than being beautiful and charming as a future monarch. Reflecting Meriwether's own somewhat less native and realistic, pessimistic grey area personality, her color blue being associated with cool, cold rather than warm, rain or water, and sadness or sorrow, along with her name suggesting seasonal changes, also may be supportive of what traits she would place importance upon. 4. Prince Philip was a stone-cold killer before he met Aurora. Of all the Disney princes, Philip was by far the most hardened warrior, unpaced by even dragons. When Maleficent cursed both kingdoms after Philip escaped, he had the military might of both nations at his disposal. Both kingdoms were apparently both wealthy from what was shown on the screen. Being the acting head of the state, he could have rallied not just the army of his nation but could have easily convinced Aurora's nation to support him in a siege against Maleficent. Instead, he goes after her alone. When Maleficent overwhelms him earlier in the movie, it takes 10 millions, almost a full minute to overwhelm Philip, despite him being unarmed and the minions swelling out weapons. Then look at the stare he gives her as she knocks him. She's already dead, she just doesn't know it. When he gets his shot, he fires off even more than that without scratch. The fairies give him a shot and shout out of guilt for starting this whole mess, and he takes them without even taking a practice swing. He knows his way around a blade. He's done this before. This isn't his first fight. When he had thrown the vine while Maleficent tries to stop him by turning into a dragon, he stabs her in the face. This is not his first dragon. He takes the high ground and Maleficent chases him. He's goaded her into fighting on his terms. He's got wings but decides to close with him because he's not relenting. The fairies distract her with that spell he tries to cast, but he knew where to step her. The shot was going in anyway. Look at this throw. His form was perfect, rehearsed from numerous attempts of this very maneuver. Maleficent never stood a chase. He goaded her to fight on his terms. When he killed her, he ran across her cropsey as he plummeted to the ground as if he had done it before. When he has to free Aurora, who can only be freed from her curse by true love kiss, Philip was not her true love. Philip's love of his country was the true love. He has fought for this kingdom. He did what was needed to be done to ensure his people could sleep comfortably at night, and knowing the nameless horrors that existed in this fairy tale kingdom were kept at bay by men like Philip, he needed to break the curse to free his family and restore his kingdom. If it meant kissing a girl, he barely knew then that's what he had to do. He succeeded despite the fairies getting in the eye, though they kept distracting him by yelling out things he already knew. They make a rainbow bridge when he's trying to jump the drawbridge despite the fact the horse easily clears the gap. Yelling about falling rocks he had already noticed and was getting ready to dive out of the air. The ox launch a volley and he's already bolstered behind his shell. Everything Maleficent forces threw at him he quickly identified, and in the process of avoiding it before some fairy flew in front of his face. Even when they rescued him, he was already plotting his escape, just waiting for some domed jailer to open the door so he could spring upon him. The fairies, finding him fast, just saved him some time. He could have easily escaped on his own. From his training and his discipline, it was obvious he had been fighting for years, taking up the sword that his elderly father could not. He was his nation's cleaner, removing all threats to the kingdom while honing his formidable skills to become the deadliest Disney prince ever. During his fight, when Maleficent him made no snide remarks, gave us not one snarky aside, not even a post-mortem one-liner. He was a professional, well versed in all forms of combat. He was focused, methodical, and driven. The fact that Aurora proved to be fortunate out, because if she wasn't the woman Philip had fallen for in the woods, then he would have left her to marry that woman. He was his own man, unafraid of standing up to his father, unfazed by fire-breathing dragons, and unmatched in combat. God help anyone who caused Philip after he ascended the throne. He has already shown his willingness to kill anyone who dared threaten his nation. 5. Aurora's mother got Maleficent help to give birth. When we first see Maleficent in the celebration of Aurora's birth in Sleeping Beauty, everyone, including the fairies and King Stefan, stares on it stupefied horror. That finish everyone except Queen Leah, the queen and Aurora's mother, who has a more nervous expression, almost as if she was expecting the evil fairy to add up. Then when the good fairies calmly tell Maleficent she wasn't invited, she reacts seemingly with surprise that and Maleficent infamously cursing Aurora to die only happened after that exchange. Lastly, remember how in the beginning of the film it was said Aurora's parents had struggled to bear a child for years. Surely these facts are not coincidental. As such, it is possible, likely in fact, that Queen Leah turned to Maleficent circally to be able to bear a child. Maleficent agreed on condition that Leah promised to acknowledge her once Aurora was born. However, things went downhill because Leah knew that Maleficent had a rather nasty reputation and went back on the promise. So when Maleficent found this out, hence her surprised reaction, she quickly decided that if Leah wasn't keeping her promise, then the deal was off and Aurora had to go. The whole 16 years thing was to further twist the knife as revenge for how Leah backed out at the last minute. 6. The fairies couldn't kill Maleficent until she was in dragon form. Fauna wants to turn Maleficent into a toad. Flora corrects her, saying their magic doesn't work and can only do good. Not that they're not powerful enough to take her on, but the objection is they can only do good. This gets seemingly contradicted at the end when Flora incents the prince show to kill Maleficent so they can transfigure her, but they can incent a show to kill her. What gives? And the enchantment on the show specifically says to kill, so there's no doubt that it was used to fight and she just happened to kill her. Well, what changed? Notice up till this point, all the fairy magic was ever sweet. Cut the cups, turn boulders into bubbles, arrows into flowers, rainbow bridge, etc. They give the prince a sword and shield, but when Flora conjures them, she says it's for protection. She doesn't add the kill enchantment until later. It's not until Maleficent turns into a dragon that the fairies get lethal. When Maleficent turns into a dragon, she specifically says that summons all the power of hell. So she's not just dragon, she imbued with the powers of hell and just happens to take a form that looks and acts like how we think a dragon is. This is what allows the fairies' good magic to be used for killing. There's not killing someone who is evil anymore. Now there's up against all the powers of hell, whose good magic can absolutely destroy. Also, when the smoke clears, she disintegrated, so she was a true abomination at the point, adding further evidence of why she was fair game. 7. Maleficent and fairies can modify each other's magic but cannot defy it. Merryweather couldn't undo Maleficent's death cards because Maleficent was just extremely powerful, so she had to settle with softening the cards to be a sleeping one. Maleficent didn't even attempt to rectify the sleeping spell. Why? Because she couldn't. I think that once the spell has been casted or modified, it has to play it out and nothing can stop it. Maleficent cursed Aurora to pick her finger and fall dead and nothing can stop that. So Merryweather changes it to sleep instead of death with the addition that she can be awoken with true love's kiss. Nothing can stop that. So Maleficent instead just keeps Philip in her dungeon. The spell will occur. She even calls it destiny to him, but the most she can do is keep him alive until she is old and decrepit and then allow him to fulfill destiny. 8. Could Maleficent still be alive? In the final battle against the Maleficent in her dragon form, Philip struck the sword of truth straight into her heart and Maleficent fell over the edge of a cliff. At the bottom, we see her cloak with the sword still in plate when suddenly within 5 seconds, the sword itself turned black. So what does this mean? If Maleficent really did, or rather absorbed into the sword, trapping her inside, then if so, it could be possible that something or someone will eventually break her free from her imprisonment of the sword unless it's placed in an isolated area. 9. Rapunzel is the real Maleficent. After Rapunzel and Eugenie's wedding, they lived there happily ever after for some years, but as the time was passing by, Rapunzel started to change and feeling empty, a blankness that not even Eugenie could feel. That happened because she lost her hair, which was part of herself. She was kind, nice and pure, but later she changed because what no one had informed her, because no one knew was that with the golden hair she was a good person, cause the magic of the flower was affecting on her, whose purpose was to heal. Now that the magic was gone, Rapunzel changed to the person that would have become after 18 years with Gothel, selfish, angry story and with lots of psychological issues. So she started studying magic, aiming to bring back Gothel and kill her by herself, which that she never accomplished. After some years, Rapunzel became one of the most powerful witches, but at the same time distant with Eugenie. He couldn't find love in Rapunzel's face, so he fell in love with a princess of another kingdom. She loved him back and she helped him to flee from Karuna and come to her kingdom, where he changed his name once more. Now he was Stefan, and she married the princess. Rapunzel couldn't find him, and from her anger, the kingdom was suffering. 1 year later, Stefan's daughter was born, and with his wife they were planning a big celebration. Rapunzel learned about it and she made a research about King Stefan, cause she had never heard of him, and she discovered the truth. She went to the celebration wanting to kill Eugenie, but when he faced him, she couldn't do it. Deep down, she still loved him, and so instead of killing him, she yelled why they didn't invite her, and she cursed the baby princess, Princess Aurora. Then the king sneaks into Sleeping Beauty's castle and rapes her. In the Disney version of Sleeping Beauty, Aurora and Princess Philip meet in the woods where they sing Once Upon a Dream and instantly fall in love. But in the original version of Sleeping Beauty, the princess is not swept off her feet. She is raped in her sleep. The two main characters don't actually meet until Sleeping Beauty is already asleep. In Giambattista Basilis version, a king finds an abandoned palace, held sneaks through the window using a ladder and searches every single room. At last, the king finds Sleeping Beauty named Talia in Basilis' story, who is lying on a bed deeply asleep, and then the story takes a disturbing turn. Crying aloud, the king beheld her charms and felt his blood course hotly through his veins. He lifted her in his arms and carried her to a bed, where he gathered the first fruits of love, aka her raped her, apparently Sleeping Beauty, and she gets pregnant. Asia, if the king raping sleeping stranger wasn't disturbing enough, after he has sex with Sleeping Beauty, the king goes home and for a time, though not more about this incident. Apparently the king didn't think it was ought to find a sleeping woman abandoned in a castle, and clearly he had no reservation about ditching her after raping her. When the king gathered the first fruits of love from Sleeping Beauty, he apparently left something behind. 9 months later, Sleeping Beauty gives birth to 2 children, a boy and girl, while she is still asleep. The author brushes past how exactly it's possible to sleep through a twin level. Once the babies are born, 2 fairies appear to help care for them. Basilis' story is already over to drag for Disney, and at this point takes another stranger turn as the fairies try to help the newborns breastfeed. The baby suck on Sleeping Beauty's fingers until she wakes up, and her reaction is not normal. Sleeping Beauty wakes up when the fairies, in an attempt to place the twins on the sleeping woman's breast so they can nurse, accidentally stick them on her fingers instead. The newborn sucked so much that the splinter of flax came out. Once the flax which had made Sleeping Beauty into a coma is removed, Sleeping Beauty awoke as if from a long sleep. 11. When the king returns, Sleeping Beauty falls in love with him and becomes his mistress. Not really. Obviously, the king hadn't thought about Sleeping Beauty for a while. After all, she had time to give sleep birth to twins, but then the king remembered her and hoping for a second date with the sleeping woman. He returns to the place. He must have been pretty surprised to find Sleeping Beauty awake and taking care of her twins. The original 10 claims that the king was overjoyed, and he told Tyler who he was and how he had seen her and what had taken place. Again, that long sleep must have affected Sleeping, because rather than stabbing the king of demanding child support, Basili writes, when she heard this, their friendship was knitted with tighter bonds. The two began a romantic relationship. The king leaves out one small detail, that he is already married. 12. Maleficent is not an evil fairy. She's a queen married to a cheating rapist. In the Disney Sleeping Beauty, Maleficent is the self-proclaimed mistress of all evil. She is the one who curses baby Aurora with the threat of Tyndall that Aurora's parents sent her off to a best rest with the fairies in the woods, and Maleficent transforms into a dragon to fight Prince Philip when he tries to save Aurora's life. Even in the Charles Perrault version of Sleeping Beauty, popularized in his Mother Ghost Tales published in 1697, the evil omen is a hybrid between an old fairy in Giambattista Basilis' Sun, Moon, and Tyla is the king's wife, a woman married to a cheating rapist. The wronged queen tries to cook the children to feed to their father. The queen ordered her cook to slaughter the children and cook them up in several tasteful for her richest husband. The gentle-hearted cook could not possibly kill the adorably twins, so he hides them and cooks 2 lamb in their place. Then the The queen sits down with the king, watch him eat his children. Whenever he compliments the food, she says, "Eat, eat, you are eating of your own." After cooking the children, the queen tries to toss Sleeping Beauty into a fire. The queen isn't satisfied with simply feeding the children to her cheating husband, so she kidnaps Sleeping Beauty. The queen calls out Sleeping Beauty, obviously unaware of the rape, by saying, "You are a fine piece of goats, you ill-oiled who are enjoying my husband." She goes on to call Sleeping Beauty the lump of filth, the cruel sheet that she has caused my head to spin. The queen plans to toss Sleeping Beauty into a bonfire, but Sleeping Beauty tries to defend herself by saying it wasn't her fault because the king, her husband, had taken possession of her territory when she was drunk in sleep. But by this point, the queen is out for blood. Sleeping Beauty saves herself by stripping naked in front of the queen. Sleeping Beauty figures out what's going on once she sees the bonfire, so he comes up with a plan to stall for time. She asks the queen if she can take off her clothes before she is thrown into the fire because her clothes are covered in gold and pearls. The queen says, "You can take off your clothes." I agree. Sleeping Beauty slowly begins to remove her clothes one by one, her robe, her skirt, and her sleeve. Each time she takes off a garment, she screams loudly. The king bursts into the room to figure out what's causing all the screaming and finds his wife about to throw his missus into a bonfire. The queen tells the king that his children are dead and he ate them, to which the king replies, "You weenie cat bitch, what evil deed is this?" He orders his man to throw the queen into the fire instead of Sleeping Beauty. After executing his wife, the king learns that his children are still alive. The king and Sleeping Beauty are reunited with their unharmed children. The king marries Sleeping Beauty, forgetting his dead first wife, and the family lives happily ever after. In a story full of rape, cannibalism, and assault, one of the most disturbing lines comes at the very end when Giambattista Basile includes a proverb that serves as the moral of the story: "Those whom fortune favors find good luck even in her sleep." That's right, the moral of the story, according to Basile, is that sometimes sleep rape has happened. No wonder Disney had to completely change the story to make it less creepy and disgusting. 13. In the original version, it's not just rape, it's also necrophile. In the story of Sleeping Beauty, most authors go out of their way to make it clear that Sleeping Beauty has fallen into an unchanged sleep and only the prince can awaken her. Charles Perrault's version, for example, says that the princess touches a spindle and when it ran into her hand, she fell down in a stone. The Brother Grimm tell a similar story. When Sleeping Beauty picks up the spindle and pricks herself, she fell down into a deep sleep. But the original version by Giambattista Basile does not say that Sleeping Beauty fell asleep. Her says that she died. In Basile's version, it is flax rather than a spindle that cuts as Sleeping Beauty. As the princess is stretching some flax, she ran a splinter of a flax under her nail and she fell dead upon the ground. Even Sleeping Beauty's father assumes she is dead, laying her out in the palace as if it were a tomb. So when the king sneaks into Sleeping Beauty castle and had sex with her, he probably thinks she's dead too, which only makes the entire story that much worse. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, please subscribe to my channel, hit the like button below, and please don't forget to share this video with your friends.